Hello, my name is Stephanie Remick, and I wanted to provide you with an overview of the internship interview process as it can be a bit involved. Students will begin emailing you on Friday, September 13th to schedule their interviews. So, as a heads up, all students are required to contact 10 organizations from our internship job board list. All students have access to that internship job board list and they know that they're required to contact 10 organizations. So it's very possible you could get a flood of emails on or after Friday, September 13th. When a student sends you an email, please make sure to reply all, as their teacher advisor should be on the email. However, we also ask that you include Lewis Laws on your communications, and his email is llaws@wlapcs.org. We are asking that each organization complete 3 interviews for each position that they have available. So if you're planning to host 1 intern, you do 3 interviews, 2 interns, 6 interviews, etc. Don't limit yourself to the first 3 emails that you receive. You have the discretion to decide who you want to offer an interview to. So you can schedule interviews or offer interviews to every student that sends you an email. If you think a student's email was unprofessional, you can email them back and say, thank you so much for your interest. However, the lack of professionalism in your email illustrates that you're not going to be a good fit for this organization. Give the student that feedback and move on to another candidate. Also keep in mind that if you schedule interviews with 3 students, that those 3 students may not follow through on actually completing their interviews. So we do advise that you also try and schedule interviews with more than you're required to meet with. That way you can ensure you actually end up meeting the required candidacy for your position. These are the times that are available for you to meet with students. New this year, we are offering the interview fair, which is going to be on the first Friday of the interview period, October 4th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. When you registered as a host organization, you indicated whether or not you are available. Adrian Williams will be following up with you with more details about that event if you are participating. If you're unsure if you are participating or not, don't hesitate to reach out to Adrian as well. Then there will be 2 interview Fridays on October 18th and October 25th. These are dates in the calendar where we've set aside time for students to be dismissed from school to go to your office to complete an interview. Please schedule interviews with students beginning at 10 a.m. We will dismiss them as early as 9 a.m. to get to your office at 10 a.m. But they will have essentially the entire day to get interviews done on those 2 dates. Students have fall break on Friday, October 11th through Tuesday, October 15th. So if a student isn't traveling over that long fall break, you can have an interview with a student at your office or via phone, whichever works for you. If for some reason coordinating an in-person interview isn't working out, you also have the option to do a phone interview after school. Students are dismissed at 3:30 p.m. Some students may need to stay after school for office hours until 4:30 p.m., but generally 3:30 p.m. is our dismissal time. So we ask that you schedule interviews after that time. If a student emails you and says, I'm available Monday at 11 a.m., do not accept that as a time that a student is available. They are most likely in class. So if you are doing a phone interview, please, please, please schedule it for after school beginning at 3:30 p.m. I also highlighted here the dates that students are available in September, being the 20th and 27th. That would be after 12:30 p.m. Since they are going to begin emailing you on the 13th, there are those 2 additional Fridays in September where students have some more flexibility in their schedule to meet with you. However, know that the actual interview window is scheduled from October 4th to October 25th. Okay, for those of you that are participating in the interview fair, our hope is that you will be able to interview all of your candidates on that first Friday on October 4th. We will be making all of the appointments for you that day. So if you are attending the interview fair and a student emails you, do not schedule the interview with the student. Simply say, thank you for your interest. I'll be at the interview fair on October 4th and hope to meet you there. Something simple like that will indicate to the student that their email was received, and you're hopeful that you'll be able to meet with them. But know that we will be scheduling all of the interviews. And Adrienne Williams will be sharing that schedule with you once it's finalized. Those interviews at the interview fair will take place at WLA from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Interviews will take place in 20-minute segments. It's possible that you may only need to be there from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., or you may need to be there for the entire time frame. It really depends on the number of students that you're planning to host. So if you, again, are planning to host one intern, we do 3 interviews. We're going to try and schedule them in a 1-hour time block. If you're hosting more than one intern, expect to be there for at least the entire 2 hours. Check your email for updates from Adrienne Williams, as she will be the one coordinating that event. Okay. How you organize your interviews is entirely up to you. So this is outside of the interview fair. So even if you are attending the interview fair, if you are interested in meeting more candidates after that date, you can do this as well. Decide the date and time that you want to conduct interviews. That can be on a single day. So you could say, actually, I'm going to use Friday, October 18th or Friday, October 25th as the one day that I'm going to do all of my interviews. Or you can decide during this one particular week, I'm going to set aside time in my schedule to do phone interviews after school just this week. If you decide to host a one-day event, you can have students sign up using a Google form or a Doodle form. This I have seen has had hit or miss in terms of its success rate with students. Some students really understand that that's the way that they're supposed to schedule their interviews. Other students, it takes a little bit more coaching through. So reminders on your end to help them, to prompt them to fill out the Google form or the Doodle form is appreciated. And you could also just have, hey, come starting at this time, and whichever student comes first, I'll interview those students and then just move on throughout the students that arrive. However works for you, just make sure that you are tracking the students that you are meeting. You can have some sort of sign-in sheet, a physical piece of paper that students have to write their first and last name on. You could create a spreadsheet just for yourself. That actually works really well. I've had a couple of organizations in the past create, a Google sheet where they just record the name, the first and last name of the student, the date and time that they met with the student. And that was a really great way for them to share and confirm with me who they actually met with. So regardless of how you schedule your interviews, make sure that you are also keeping a means to track it. And I also want to emphasize again, making sure to record down the students' first and last names, because in our junior class last year, for instance, we had 3 gentlemen by the name of Kevin. So it's really important that you're recording a student's first and last name in your records. This interview process is an opportunity for you to serve as a professional mentor. So anything that comes up during the interview process with the student, we really appreciate you giving them feedback directly. We give them feedback all of the time, and it kind of becomes one of those things like, yeah, sure. But when they hear it from an adult outside of the school community, it really makes an impact. So the more feedback you can provide, the better, and the direct feedback you provide is the best. So if a student shows up late for an interview, and you can still conduct the interview if you see fit, then at the end of the interview, just say, thank you so much for coming. However, because you were 10 minutes late, that's not a good look. Really, as a professional, you want to make sure you're 10 minutes early rather than 10 minutes late. So that's something that I'm going to be taking into account when I'm making my final decisions in terms of ranking candidates. If a student forgets a resume, again, you can say, thank you so much. I appreciate the time you gave me. However, this interview would have gone better had you given me a resume. You should always bring a resume every single time you do an interview. We are telling the students to do these things, but again, it's helpful when they hear it from someone outside the school community, because it really reinforces that, yes, this is what is expected in the real world. Since I brought up resumes, students do have them. They do have them, though, as a Google Doc. And so for a lot of our students, they will share the Google Doc with you as a link in the email, or they may just attach it as a Google Doc attachment rather than downloading it first and then attaching it to the email. We do work with students to try and remind them that not everybody uses Google as their email platform. So we are teaching them how to download the document and attach it to an email. But just as a reminder, this is a learning process for our students. And so getting them to share their resumes may take a little bit longer than you would expect. You can ask students to do a performance task, or you can have a first round of interviews and then a second round of interviews, so long as all of it is completed before the deadline. And our deadline is October 25th. So as you're preparing for the interviews, keep that in mind. If you wanted to have a first round and then a second round, all of it needs to be completed by 5 p.m. on October 25th. Allow for students to reschedule once. Don't make yourself go crazy. So a lot of times we may have students say at the very last minute, oh my goodness, I've had something come up with a family member. I have to go pick up a cousin or a sister after school today. I can't make it. Is there any way that we can reschedule? Or I'm so sorry, I can't make it to the office. Could we reschedule as a phone call? Please allow the student one opportunity to reschedule with you, but only once. And when you do reschedule with that student, make sure to note, generally, this is not professional practice to reschedule the interview. However, I am willing to make an exception in this instance and then reschedule the interview. Again, that's where that direct feedback is really important from you. We are going to be going over with students the fact that, the interviews are on the organization's time, and that in the real world, this is something that you're expected to do. You need to prioritize getting to your interview. But we do appreciate your assistance in reinforcing that expectation with students. And again, all interviews must be completed by 5 p.m. on October 25th. If you have questions about the interview process or about the interview fair, I mentioned Adrienne Williams is going to be your primary contact. She's awilliams@WLAPCS.org. Lewis Laws is working directly with the students on scheduling their interviews. So if you're having issues with a particular student, he's definitely the person that you want to reach out to. He's also the person that you want to include on all of the emails that you're sending in regards to scheduling interviews, as he's ultimately the one that's going to be releasing students on October 18th and October 25th to go attend their interviews. So it's important that he is aware of the dates and times that students' interviews are taking place. And again, he is LLaws@WLAPCS.org. Thank you so much for your time and your participation in our internship program. We really appreciate your partnership, and we look forward to a successful interview season.